Good morning, guys. This is the last day of WISP-Palooza 2016, and I finally got Sonar nailed down. Been trying for past several shows, well, not several, but past few shows to get them nailed down, and just, well, I've been busy, and because they're new and quite exciting, they're always busy. The show floor hasn't even been opened, and they've been slammed for the past 2.5 hours. So I finally got him pulled away to talk about his product a bit. So tell us a bit about Sonar and how you got to where you are.
Okay. Well, I'll give you the abridged history so it don't take too long, but I've been in the ISP industry for about 15 years. I spent the first decade working for Time Warner Cable. So I came from the big corporate 100 gig MPLS, you know, all that kind of stuff. I didn't know much about wireless at all.
And it also, that's why our addressing
After about a decade of doing that, I was pretty tired of the corporate structure, but I'd always been really into building software solutions to try and help solve problems. So I built a lot of pieces of software at Time Warner to do things like network monitoring, portals for customers to log in and see their usage and trouble tickets and stuff like that. And I was really excited about trying to build on top of that. And so I went to work for PowerCode. That was 6 years ago, 5 years ago, something like that, and they had a product in place that was mostly servicing the WISP industry, which I knew nothing about, right? My RF background was cable modems, DOCSIS, so stuff in the air wasn't something I dealt with too much. But I was excited about the opportunity and starting to learn more about the wireless industry and working on PowerCode and that kind of thing. And I think I had a lot of success with the team that I had there, really bringing PowerCode forward, and we did a lot of things like the ProSerra integration and working with different vendors and things. It was very exciting to me. And so about 18 months ago, I decided to leave there and start a new company, which is Sonar, and we wanted to build something really modern and something that was very flexible, because what I'm really seeing in the WISP industry now is a huge explosion, right? That was 3 or 4 years ago. If you came to a show like this and you talked to people, you'd say, oh, you know, I have 400 subs, this guy'd say I have 200, 800, and there was a couple of big dogs, right, the Jabs and those kind of guys, but they're all using Ubiquity or Cambium, and that was pretty much it. And you'd find a guy here and there that was getting big and doing acquisitions, but it wasn't typical. And then things started to change, and we saw vendors like ProSerra and now Sandvine and these big guys coming in. We're talking to WISPs here every day now that have got 5, 10, 20,000 subs, and a lot of the systems that are out there today I don't think are built to serve the needs that they have. They were built a very long time ago, based on the requirements of a single WISP. You know, if you ask most of the other vendors here that are doing billing and OSS systems, they'll tell you, we built it for our WISP, and then we thought maybe other people could use it. So when we built Sonar, we didn't build it that way. What we built is a foundation where we're able to bring in and integrate anything these WISPs need, or even other ISPs. We have fiber ISPs, cable ISPs using it, where it's flexible enough to do all the things that people need nowadays without being incredibly complex. So there's a lot of things we've already developed in here that aren't available in other systems. We're tied in with Sandvine, we're tied in with Telred, and we're constantly adding all these new vendors that come out, and that's kind of the core premise, is that forward thinking, keep moving, and be able to support the things WISPs need in the future.
Cool. Yeah. So like, I know that you went public with it, and the timeline could be wrong, but a year-ish ago.
About a year ago, yeah.
And you know, a lot of the platforms were kind of you know, I already have everything, or when something came out, it was I do have everything.
Right.
Like they didn't do anything until they already had, well, for some definition of everything.
Right. Yeah,
all they were going to do. You guys did that a bit differently.
We did. Yep.
Can you talk about, you know, that approach and you know?
For sure. So we split Sonar up into a series of modules, and we've still got more modules to build. We're not done yet. And the first module we built was the CRM and the billing module, and we moved into doing things like ticketing and inventory and network monitoring and provisioning and all those things. And our thought process with this was, if we start by building the core being the CRM, the billing, there's plenty of customers out there today that are interested in what we're doing, and they're using QuickBooks or something today, say they don't have a ticketing system, they don't have an inventory system, they don't have a network monitoring system, and so if we can give them a better billing system and we get them started there, as we bring the additional modules in, they can start using those and they get a better product. Because when we announced, we'd actually kind of thought maybe we're going to wait until we're done with everything. But we had so many people say to us, all I need is billing and ticketing, right? That's all I need right now, and the other stuff's going to be gravy. So it made sense to us to get it out. And the great thing there was we've already got 80-something WISPs on board using Sonar, and some of them have been there since the beginning, and they've been really integral in helping us come up with new ideas and think about things that we can do. And you look at our forum and you'll see guys in there that have been posting for a year and they've been involved in the whole process. So that was really a good thing.
And then, having the modular approach also kind of seems like it could be a bit more scalable.
Yeah.
That's
big driver for us.
Being able to make improvements in certain areas, whether in code or in the supporting infrastructure.
Yeah, and I think you can see that in what we've done. I mean, if you look at when we built, for example, we'll talk about our provisioning system. We built it in a very open way, right? If you interface in Sonar with a MikroTik or a Procera, the interface inside Sonar is exactly the same. So whatever you do, you can flip backwards and forwards between those devices. And so it's made it very easy for us with that agnostic approach to add other vendors. And if you see, I think we've proved that with, I mean, CTI, when did they announce their Sandvine piece? Weeks ago, right? If that, I mean, we had that tied in a couple of days. That's how long it took us to get it done. And it's because of the modular system that we have. You're talking about scalability. I mean, that was another huge driver here, I think. Now that we're seeing these WISPs that are big, 20, 30,000 subs and bigger, we wanted to build something to make sure we could support their needs and grow with them, and that's what we've done.
Next phase, we're going to where the technician checks out.
So then, what other modules do we expect to see coming out? You mentioned, CRM billing. You mentioned provisioning, ticketing, and monitoring. Is all that available right now?
So, well, the one piece that isn't available right now would be the network monitoring. That's going to be launched in about 6 to 8 weeks. We're showing our scheduling module here. That's going to be out pretty much when we get home. We're going to release that. And that gets us to what we consider to be version 1. That's like to us, I mean, I think there's a lot of really great features there, but that was like our minimum product to get to 1.0. So there's going to be 2 things that happen as we go past this. One is that every module we built, we had thousands of things we wanted to do, and we stopped to the point and said, let's get this out and let people using it. And I think even where we are, they're comparable or better than what other people have in the industry today. But we had a lot of things we wanted to add, so those are going to come along. We also want to do things that other people aren't doing today. We want to build a sales CRM. We want to build in a project management system. We want to build in things like quoting and that kind of thing that people are historically doing in other systems. And
if they're doing it.
If they're doing it at all, sure. But you see now, like a lot of WISPs going heavy into commercial sales and things like that, where you really need that kind of thing. So things like a monitoring system, I mean, we have a year of work planned out to expand on that and really make it into something world-class. So there's a lot coming, but those are the short-term things.
And then I think it speaks a lot of the belief in the product that you're not yet at 1.0 and you've already got 80 WISPs behind you.
Yeah, for sure. It's been really exciting, and it's been really great for us to see, even with how many players are in this industry, right? I mean, we have a lot of competition, that people are willing to put their trust in us and they're excited about what we're doing, and that's why I love this industry. I mean, everybody knows each other, and now it's getting big enough that maybe you don't know everyone anymore, but it's been really great having that kind of feedback and really positive feedback from everybody.
And then maybe some bit more nuts and bolts type questions. How is it deployed? Is it cloud? Is it on-prem? Do you have a hybrid? Is it either or?
So there's a lot of moving parts. I'll say that. So the core of Sonar is hosted in the cloud, and I know this is always a point of contention, right? People
So,
are discussing this stuff.
inventory, again,
The reason we did it that way
very flexible.
is it's an incredibly complex application. We're way past the days of some PHP scripts and a MySQL database. I mean, we have 4 different databases running this. We can scale them out horizontally as far as we need to, and we have all different interfaces. We have an API that's separate from our web interface. And by hosting it ourselves, we can manage that infrastructure. If someone was to want to host it locally, they'd have to deploy numerous VMs and be managing those and resources and stuff. And so that was the decision we made there. There are other pieces to it, though. For example, our customer portal, I think we've done in a very different way than everybody else. And one of the big features we have in Sonar is we have a full API. Everything's exposed through an API. And all our customer portal is an application that interfaces that API, and we open sourced it. So we give it to you. So if you just want to deploy it as is, you can. It has all the features you'd expect, but you can make any changes to it you want. You could hire a developer to make changes to it. We can make changes. You could even build one completely from scratch.
Okay.
So that's a piece. And then the only other piece would be our Polar. So for doing network monitoring, because we're in the cloud, we don't want to do things like latency polling across the internet. It doesn't make sense. So we have a Polar, same deal. It's open source, it's free. You can download it from our GitHub repo, and then that links up to Sonar, and you would deploy that inside your network on a VM or something like that, and then that just delivers data back. So that's kind of the architecture.
Okay. And like I know that like one of the quote unquote pride of your predecessor was that this box that sat on the edge of your network, which has evolved into also you could also be a Procera box. And some people weren't. That wasn't really their cup of tea. How does that fall into this product?
Well, so we have a completely different approach, and I think there's a couple of schools of thought there. When we deal with customers, we have customers that come to us and say, I want a very simple solution, and I think somebody giving you a box and putting it in your network is a very simple solution, right? So the customers that come to us that aren't looking for that typically run into limitations with something like that, or they have a deployed infrastructure they want to use, or they're looking to do things of higher complexity, right? So there's challenges when you're stuck using a black magic box like that, which doesn't do BGP or it doesn't do this, and looking for the solution. So we didn't want to go that route. What we wanted to do was to be able to interface with as many vendors as we could, to be able to do whatever people want and interface into the network they have. So if you wanted a solution like that, we can replicate it pretty closely with a MikroTik, right? We can do DHCP, we can do rate limiting, we can do redirection, or we can deploy Procera or a Sandvine, or a combination of all of those, or we can use Radius, or any mix of all that kind of stuff together, and you can get as crazy as you want. It doesn't matter to us. So.
Like we've largely been focused on internet-related things. Some systems support other things such as VoIP or email provisioning, not the email itself, but
creating accounts
and so on. What level of support for those types of things that you guys have?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we're moving forward with building modules to do a lot of that kind of stuff. We launched a CDR rating module. So we have that in place, and that'll do things like tracking call records and international rating and DIDs and things like that. We're having a lot of interest here from people that are looking for integrations with things like cPanel, right, or doing some kind of email provisioning DNS. You'll see that come. That'll be part of the CRM at some point. It's not in today, but we definitely have plans to do that kind of thing. And I think the other thing we're interested in looking at is a lot of the other vendors that are here that have software solutions. I've been talking to a company over here that's doing HR services, and they're looking for us to do things to calculate workman's comp. When are people up on towers? When are they in the field? When are they in the office? So there's so much you can do, right? It's all about data. So.
Yeah, there's stuff people don't think about, and I think that's a nice thing to with some of those HR compliance type things. People may or may not know that they have to do them, but if they do know they have to do them, they may not be doing them.
Right. Well, they've got no way to do them easily. Right?
Yeah. You know,
customer router.
it's a complex thing, and it's just easier to not deal with it.
Right.
So if it's integrated with the rest of their, you know, support ecosystem, you know, and it's a few button clicks and things like that, it seems like that would be a lot easier for WISP to be compliant and do what they're supposed to do.
Yeah. Well, look at Form 477, right? Until systems like ours and other people here integrated that, trying to do that by hand sucks. But once you write the code, it's one button click and it's done, right? And I think you can expand that out to almost every tedious task that's done. I mean, the only thing that really categorically need humans to do right now is to drive out in the field and climb up and put things on towers and houses. Really, you should be able to automate almost everything else, right? And it's a complicated problem, but I mean, that's long term. We're looking at all this stuff and saying, okay, if you're manually putting stuff in little boxes, we should be doing that, right? And
Sure.
it's going to be a while before we get to everybody, but that's the plan. That's what excites us, I think, and really it's going to differentiate us from everybody else as well.
Back to
you know, on the mention of, you know, 477, thinking, you know, some of the building platforms have their own, you know, RF engines. Some work with, you know, third party to do,
bring it into here, and then
you know,
take this piece that was not working.
end user requests for service or coverage mapping or the, you know, coverage portion of the 477. You know, where's Sonar going with that, or are they already there?
Yeah, well, so we have Form 477 today for doing the deployment right now. We base it on where customers are located. We don't do any kind of propagation right now, and I know you've got guys like Cameron and Wismon, right, where he's got a very strong system built in to do things like that. It's a tricky one. I mean, things like that I think are difficult because it's kind of poorly defined on the FCC side as to what constitutes a serviceable wireless customer, right? Is propagation planning enough? Or do you have to be able to show you truly can deliver service there? So I think looking at stuff like the propagation, those are kind of things we want to do anyway, just from a sort of technical usability perspective. From a Form 477 perspective, I mean, there's a lot of conflicting data there. The way we're doing it today is if a customer's deployed there, we'll count them in that deployment model. So seems sensible.
Sure, yeah. Well, I'm running short of things to ask about. How are you on things that tell us about?
Well, I think we've had a pretty good run through, and I think we can finish it up. I'll just say, if you're interested in Sonar, you can go to our website, spin up an instance in 90 seconds. You don't have to talk to us. There's no contract. We have tons of videos on the site, a lot of info you can look at, and appreciate you taking the time to talk to us.
Yeah, all those things are great to me, because if I can not talk to somebody, whether on a phone call or an email, I can just go there and try it, and if I like it, then reach out to you. And, you know, I'm a very DIY guy, so you know, I would look through all the videos and
the whole industry is. We have customers that have. I mean, we have a customer we met here. He's got about 3,000 subs. I never talked to him. He signed up. He watched the videos. He did all his own integration. He set up his microtics and everything. And he came here and said, "I love your system." And I said, "That's great. Who are you?" But that's what we want, right? That's fantastic because, and he feels empowered. He's not stuck. I mean, I think you can be really. I mean, you're very familiar with Wismon, right?
Yeah.
And you log into a lot of these systems right away, and it's overwhelming, right? There's so, I mean, you know, our system's overwhelming when you first log in. When you look at any of these, I think you'd say that. But having all those videos and stuff, it takes a long time for us to build them all. But I think it's an investment that helps everybody. So.
Yeah, as someone who's doing a lot of video, it does take some time.
It does, if you watch my videos on there, every 10-minute video is like 4 hours of me going and starting over. So yeah, it's worth it.
Well, and then, you know, assuming those are going to be much higher quality than our off-the-cuff stuff.
I don't know. You'll have to check them out and let me know. I think yours are pretty good. But yeah, check them out.
Well, thank you for your time.
All right. Thank you.
Those are customers, and what you're going to